Hey, good evening. This is Spirit Journey. Happy winter solstice. That means that today is the shortest day, but the longest night. So, what a dichotomy there. I hope you guys had a good day. And this is Lily, the Havanese. Well, today I'm just going to really freestyle in conversation. I, well, I walked my dogs. We were out for like 2 hours, and I was very reflective. The weather outside was cold, but I still felt okay. I made sure I dressed warm, and my dogs had their coat on, and I just was feeling. I was happy about something. Like the little things make me happy. I see in this spirit journey that I'm on. I I'm more aware of myself now, and I want to try to understand who I am. And I see that I cannot really like change outside myself, but I can always monitor myself. And I find like when I go outside now, I smile more, and I'm really happy about that. I see that when I smile, I I get people who might say niceties to me, while I'm walking my dogs. And even though you hear, the racial climate in the United States has been intense, but I'm happy to see that there are people out there who are genuine. I meet white people, white men and women, and they may say hello, or the small conversation, but or they might open the door for me, and it's really nice when someone treats you nice, and it just puts things in balance, and that you're always going to have negative people, people who are going to hate you, and you're going to find people who really are for you, and that the color of one's skin is not a determinant what the person's character is like. And in this spirit journey of mine, that was just my dog running. I want to have integrity, and I want to be a person of my word, because you have people out there, no matter what, it's what's in here, the core of the person that really makes the person. And I used to just kind of go back and forth about who I can trust, who's a so-called good person, and the illusion that people who are your so-called own kind are your friend. You can even have siblings. You can even have an identical twin, but it doesn't make them your ally. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. I was listening to this YouTuber. Her name is YVETTE CARNEL, and her focus is on I don't know how to really say it, but some people might call it Black consciousness, but she's about African American rights. Well, today she was talking about, she had a flag on her. She is an African American, and she's of mixed heritage. She's a very, very fair-skinned black woman with very, African hair. And she made a point about, she had a good point about something. She said that she was talking to people, and some of the people that she was talking to, they were all people of color, and they had their flag from the nations that they're from. And when she had her flag, something to the fact that she had her American flag, and the people took offense. And she said, well, wait a minute. So you can have your Jamaican flag, your Haitian flag, your flag from Nigeria, but then you're telling me, she's saying, that I'm not permitted to have my flag? She says, I was born and raised here, and that her ancestors in were slaves here in the United States, and she feels she has a right to claim that, hey, this is our country. And I said to myself, I understand. And I agree with her that if everyone else could claim a flag, why can't she claim hers? I remember one time I had gotten this response. This was many, many years ago. Someone had said, I wanted to get this job in this agency, modeling agency, and they said to me, oh, well, I'm sorry, but we're looking for the all-American look. And I was offended.
Quiet.
I was offended. And I was offended because I was American. And I always felt American. I knew that my skin wasn't white, but I was born and raised here. And people learn about who they are by what's around them or what you hear, no matter what it is, right. And I remember how I felt, and I felt it wasn't fair, and I felt like it was saying that I'm not entitled to say that I'm American, even though I'm born and raised here, and my parents are born and raised here. And like this YouTuber, YVETTE CARNEL, where's she going to go? She was saying that this one person was talking about reparations, and that perhaps African Americans could move out of the country. And she says no. She says, I invested my life here. And it's almost like you're giving up your pearls, and how people want to decide for you what's yours. And you should claim what is yours. Just like all these other nations that might come here, and they have a right for what flag they want to wave. And so does American blacks. That it's like the system is trying to tell you, don't have pride for where you're from. If you're an African American, you're not supposed to have pride. But shame. No. And anybody who is an African American, meaning those people who are of African ancestry, whose ancestors, direct ancestors, were enslaved in this, in the continental U.S., and I'm sorry, I almost lost train of thought, but it's really something. They don't want you to keep claiming. See, when you say to yourself, I am, that is an assertion. And when you say, I am an American, see, people don't want you to take that claim. When you make a claim on something, you're saying this is your possession. And they want us to feel that we're dispossessed. And you had callers on her show, YVETTE CARNEL. And this one woman said, well, her parents are from the Caribbean, but she was born here. And she did have a heavy, what would they say, a Caribbean accent. And people would ask her, And I gathered that people from, North America, American blacks, what are you? And she said that, she's from here. And then they insisted. And she was, oh, well, my grandparents, my parents, she said, is from, she gave the name of the Caribbean island. And the people respond, oh, so then that's what you are. And, things like that used to happen to me. I was born and raised here. My parents are born and raised here. And my parents really didn't, my parents are the type of people, you are where your feet are. And that, they pay the taxes here. My father served in the military here. And so, he's not into, all my ancestors. My father was a realist, and my mother. You got to get up, you have to work, and you give it all your might. And so I didn't know about my so-called identity, my ethnicity. I had no idea. I just, I went to an all-black school in Queens. We had 2 Hispanics total that I ever knew in that school. And in New York City, it is still the only school with the so-called least diversity. It is so African American, or I should say black, or black identity school, just where it's situated in town, and it just never changed. And this is all for all New York City. It's the only school like it. And I went to that school in Queens. It's PS 118 in Queens. It's in, I think it's considered St. Albans. And so I went to this school. And my junior high school was very integrated. It had everything. It was in a neighborhood that intercepted many different ethnicities. But either way, I learned of my Caribbean ancestry. I think I turned 18. So imagine, for 18 years, not knowing. And I always had gotten people, American blacks, that would say, what are you? And I didn't understand their question. I just took it as, well, I wasn't streety sounding. I didn't talk really, I didn't curse, things like that. I was quiet, and so I understand. So what I do now, sometimes I am asked, and so I say, I am American. I said, oh, I'm a Queens girl, but my grandparents came, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I get around it. Because, I used to just say, oh, I'm from Queens. And I had people, and I was sincere. And the people who seem to ask where I'm from now are people from a particular demographics who aren't from here. And I think they might have assumed I was of their ethnicity, language grouping. And so they expected me to say a particular response, but I didn't. And they thought I might have been being rude, and it wasn't. I knew that they weren't from here, so I'm letting them know, yeah, I'm, I'm a local girl, but they didn't take it as such. So, I don't want to offend people, but I want them to know I'm from here because I'm proud to be from here. I mean, New York City is a great place, and it's a location where you have many nationals, and that's what I like about it. And I love diversity. I like trying new foods, things like that. But either way, so this is what I have to do to not offend people, by wording it in such a way, because I now as an adult, I know what they're really asking, so that's how I get around it. But I feel for myself that, the subject of reparations, I do believe in reparations though, but I strongly identify with being here, and where am I going to go? I've served in the military here, so why should I leave? You know, but it, I guess identity is a tricky one, and people want to live where they can get food and shelter, you know, and so when push comes to shove, you have many nationals here, many people who aren't born and raised in New York City, but I am. But again, what really makes New York City special is the fact that everybody is here. So I really wish we could all get along. And, you know, ladies, only that I could say with ladies, because, you know, I think culture and things like that, it's really transported by the woman of the house, the female. And why I say that is that, okay, when she has her gives birth, who teaches them how to speak, how to tie the little shoes, who teaches them where grandma is from or grandpa, you know, her parents. The kid learns identity initially from who's raising them, and that's usually the female. So ladies, rather than being defensive, I find a lot of times it's the women that seem to be very biased against other different ethnic groups. When there's women of all different groups together, and especially at work, and that they're defensive about, well, how come you're eating this or that, you know? You know, ladies, we need to come together, because when push comes to shove, you know, we don't want war for our sons. You want peace. You want your family unit together, and we all need food, clothing, shelter. I say, ladies, let's share the food that we make, those special things that you like from your tradition, to share what you have with others, rather than being defensive, like using it as a weapon, that I'm better than you because I make my sandwiches this way, you make yours that way. Come on, we sound really foolish. And I used to live in the Caribbean. I had an opportunity to live there. And it's like, man, it's like you can't just sit and just eat your own food without someone commenting. You know, ladies, let's learn to embrace what other women, what they have. Or let's say one may have skills how to knit or crochet or paint or do beadwork. You know, it's the women that make a culture, you know. We perpetuate the culture. Let's perpetuate the best of our culture, so that no matter where you are in life, where you're living, your home is where your feet is, and you should invest in where you put your butt down. You know, you hear many women, and they might be working in the U.S., say, oh, I'm going to send my money elsewhere, or I'm going to retire back in my home country. You're pulling out the resources from here. You're not respecting where you're from. And just like when I lived in the Caribbean, well, it was still part of the U.S., but still, I invest where I am. And if I'm going to church down there, I'm not going to say I'm going to send money to the U.S. mainland. No, I'm going to this church, my tithes and offering going here. And I've heard people say contrary. They send the money, they want all the benefits where they're standing in, but they send the money elsewhere. That's not right. That's not right. No matter where I live, I believe that you should that you support where you live. No matter where you live, if you don't want to support that location, go to a neighborhood or a state or region in the world where your feet are. That is the place you support. You have to respect the land. I think with nationality, it's about respecting the land where you're in, because the land is ultimately going to support you. And I think the land now in the world is becoming contaminated. It's becoming toxic all over the world, because you have the car exhaust and the water gets contaminated, and then you have the GMOs. This planet is going to spit us out of their mouth. So where does nationality play in that when the land spits you out? So I'm just saying, just to poo-poo racism, nationalism, respect where you live, clean up after yourself, and respect your neighbors, and share, because one day you're not going to have, and you have to rely on someone else, and you can't rely strictly on reparations. Reparations is a good concept, but with reparations there's responsibility. And this one person I heard was saying that what are they going to do to put money in the Black community? And I'm thinking, it's, in my opinion, that it's not giving the Black community money in a form of reparations, cash reparations. No, that's not going to get us out of poverty. Just like those people who win the lottery, they might win millions of dollars. You have people who won the lottery in millions, and they were in debt. They owed more, they spent more than they actually had, and so they were in debt, further debt than when they started out. And I'm afraid that that's what will happen if we're given money. What's going to happen is this, in my opinion. They get the money and they go out to the most expensive store and buy items that depreciate. They're not going to use it to enhance themselves, let's say education, whatever form of education they want, or land, health. They're just going to spend it on nonsense. And one thing with money and wealth, and I'm not a wealthy person. I'm not a millionaire. I'm just a regular person that lives in New York City. But that your money has to duplicate itself. It has to multiply. So you get money, or you get some form of reparation. You have to use that to build up on. Because what's going to happen if you don't use that money, those resources to build up, it's just going to go, you're going to go down with it. Once it's all out of your pocket, then you're going to look around and say, well, what happened? And then you're going to say, oh, you have to give us more money in reparations. You have to, and you're going to beg more and more and more, and then they're going to give you money, and then you're going to lose it all. It's not the answer. Money is not the answer. It's about building up a community, and that it's going to, it's like a generator. It's going to generate, and then it's going to get back, So it's a reciprocity. You put out, you bring in. But if you're just putting out, you're going to come out a poor person. So I don't know. That's really the point I really want to say, that it's not a one answer thing, and it's not about giving. It's about once you have, and even if you don't get reparations, still where you're standing, where you're standing in life, where your bottom is sitting, where your feet are standing, you have to make it work for you there, and you can't rely on what happened to your ancestors. And I was doing that, thinking the and that the answers in my ancestors. They lived their lives, my ancestors, and they they transition. But now you're left with the bag. And what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do to enhance your life and for a better tomorrow for the next generation? You can't blame, I can't blame what happened in the past, but to think of, wow, I'm living today, I have excellent health, I have a coat to put on to keep warm and boots. Now what am I going to do, to enhance my future after this? Or let's say I have nieces and nephews, what about them? You have to have that multiplicity in life. So that's really all that I want to say. And, I think it's important to walk in thanksgiving, because there are parts of this world that they may not have had a meal to eat. I'm very fortunate than most women, I think, So thank you again for listening to Spirit Journey. And as I always say, if you could share this video with friends, family members. You could comment below. You could subscribe to Spirit Journey. And you could give me the double thumbs up, because it's winter solstice and it's the shortest day and the longest night. So take care and enjoy. Bye-bye.